Welcome to the Human Handbook Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Adam Tice. We're talking about everything you need to know, but nobody's telling you about how to optimize your health, cultivate happipiness, and biohack your way to peak performance. I've been in the clinic 12 years, and I'm stepping out of the clinic into the pod studio, bringing all the clinical pearls, all the foundational wisdom that you need to accelerate your health and accelerate your life. Here we go. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Human Handbook Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Adam Tice. Okay, guys, welcome to episode 4, and today's episode is entitled Determinants of Health. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the things that determine health, and this is part of the system, guys, and this is part of the natural foundations. And so we've gone through we're diving deeper into our paradigm, into the paradigm of self-healing, into the paradigm of where we take self-responsibility for our health, and which is our greatest wealth, which is the asset that we are cultivating is our health, and that's what's going to pay us. The payout is in the future. The payout is thinking 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ahead. So think about how you want to be looking and feeling and thinking and acting, and move toward that. Start acting like that person now. Start taking the choices. Start making the choices that person would. How would that person, this future self, behave as far as this day-to-day activities, which that's the main domain of the determinants of health. And we're going to go through and I'm going to unpack what do I mean by the determinants of health. And there are specific things that I'm talking about. And the high level of this is the food, is the air, is the water. And I'm going to unpack that in just a minute, but I want to go through here and lay the groundwork a little bit more, just to give the context again. I think the context here is super important because that's part of the paradigm shift, and that's part of what we're doing as a part of this up leveling. This is this first season of the Human Handbook Podcast really is the software update. This is the up level that we need. This is the software update that we need so that we can unlock and open up a whole nother set of possibilities, a whole nother set of potentialities for the way that that health expresses in our body. And this is how we do it, guys. So let's go through. And what we're doing here is going through and really hardwiring the tools and the mindset that we need so you can create your health naturally and create it in this way. So today's episode is super important, definitely in the category of everything you need to know, but nobody's telling you. There are people talking about this out there, but the mainstream medicine still has no idea, and they don't attribute anything to these determinants of health. And that is to the detriment of the people. And so if the system is not serving the people, then we must exit that system. And the system is the dominant school of medicine. It's no secret that the dominant school of medicine is broken. The healthcare system is broken. Everybody knows it. The wheels are falling off. It's a total dumpster fire when we're talking about chronic disease and prevention. And that's the domain that I'm talking about. Yes, there's the breakaway. Oh, there's a time and a place. Okay, yes, there's a time and a place. The emergent situations, motor vehicles, transplants, surgeries. Okay, those are the domain of surgery and procedures. But again, guys, I put a distinction there. Surgeons and the procedures, that's not in the domain of medicine. Those are surgeries and procedures, and that's a super duper specialty, and we definitely need that stuff. But I'm talking about the domain of chronic disease and really the domain of optimizing health, and that's where I like to focus. And let's unpack this. Let's get into it a little bit, guys. What do I mean by the determinants of health? Determinants of health are a collection um, of things that we look at, and these can be, some of these can be perceived by the individual, and some of these are perceived or sort of observed by the physician. So these are things like, this is a big class of things, because how does health happen? It is many, 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 many factors, and then the totality of those factors all mixed up and all expressed in the current moment. That's your state of health. And so this means things like genetics, intrauterine influences, nutrition, exercise habits, past medical history, illnesses, medical intervention, surgeries, procedures that one might have had. This means drama and trauma in your life. It means physical and emotional traumas. It means stressors or different exposures, behavioral influences, social, cultural, environmental. Uh, and I put spiritual and karmic influences in here also. I think all of those things, all the totality of those things is what creates our health. These are the determinants of health. And there are either going to be health supporting and health promoting factors, or factors that disturb the health. And those are the obstacles of cure that we need to identify and remove, so that we can plug and play and replace them with the health supporting, the health promoting factors, those determinants of health that are going to promote and restore and maintain and sustain the ideal health. This is how we do it. So this is relevant because this is the elephant in the room. This is the root issue of what is going on in the world of chronic disease and medicine, and this is specifically um, well, really with all chronic diseases, and we're going to talk about some of those examples as we go through here today, the most common ones, but things like diabetes, metabolic syndrome issues, cholesterol issues, obesity and weight loss or weight gain issues regulating the body weight, we would say. Um, all of these things, these are big, big, big problems, and these are things that can be managed with naturopathic modalities, with this naturopathic specialty that I'm talking about, where we address this. And we recognize this. I mean, the research is quite clear on this, and there's a whole field of environmental medicine that is developed out of this. And I think the whole world of functional medicine kind of spun out of this. The environmental medicine is really the gateway drug into the functional medicine, and then the functional medicine is the gateway drug into the deeper, truly more root level um, approaches, like the naturopathic approach. Uh, this is what really gets a lot of people into natural medicine, and where they start looking at this stuff. So the research is quite clear. I mean, there are metals, there are chemicals in the air, in the water, in the food, in the cosmetics. In they're ubiquitous, guys. They're everywhere. And again, I think it's been a little while since I checked this number. I need to double check it. I know it's over 80,000 registered synthetic compounds, and these are all registered in the last 100 years or so. So that's 80,000 plus synthetic, man made, better living through chemistry. The biology does not recognize these these toxicants, and this is affecting everything from sperm count in the men to infertility in the women, to endocrine disorders, to autoimmune disorders, to disorders of the nervous system and cognitive issues that look like Alzheimer's, or and this is the diabetes type 3. We've known this for many years now. We've been talking about this. Gabriel Cousens introduced this diabetes type 3 idea to me. And we've been teaching and talking about this for over 10 years now. And so this is stuff that's just making it into some of the headlines. So again, the research is out there 10, 20, 30 years ahead of what makes the mainstream headlines. So it's up to us to go into the research. It's up to us to do the dive into this and to bring this. And as a clinician, that's part of what my job is to be up to date on this. I'm keeping myself up to speed on this and incorporating this into our treatment plans. And we've been doing this for a long time. And this is super important because these environmental toxins cause issues. They're neuroendocrine disruptors. And again, the food, the air, the water, this is where they're getting in. And those are our determinants of health. Those are the things that are going to set and create the terrain in our body so that the biology and the biochemistry and all our pathways and our immune system and our nervous system works properly. And if we have damage, if we have bioburden, if we have a toxic bioburden, then the biology gets weighed down, the endocrine system and the nervous system, they start to, these chemicals, they mimic hormones, they mimic the different compounds that are actually native to the biology, to the nervous system, to the endocrine system primarily. And so that means the hormones are going to get disrupted. The communication systems in the pathway are going to be disrupted because these things sit in those systems, in the nervous system, in the nerves, in the endocrine system, the hormones, and they confuse the communication in the body. And again, the biology is extremely resilient and adaptable because of hundreds of thousands of millions of years of updating itself and fine tuning itself and giving really learning more and more. And so that's something that the biology has to try to do, is has to try to learn how to deal with these environmental toxins. And again, this is a whole field of environmental medicine has kind of come up around this in the last really the last generation, I think. And this is a big, big deal because the increasing body load of the environmental toxins in both the men and the women is creating major health issues. For example, things that we see a lot of and are at least partly can be attributed to issues with the determinants of health, with the air, the food, the water, environmental medicine, toxicity, the whole host of endocrine disorders, hypothyroid, low thyroid, so common. Uh, PCOS, other hormonal issues. Um, these things are all the determinants of health are factors here. So I would put into this category also autoimmune disorders. They're the environmental medicine and the determinants of health um, is a big player here. So all the Hashimoto's that we see so common, lupus, rheumatoid conditions, other musculoskeletal conditions, polymyalgia rheumatica, Sjogren's, all this whole family of these autoimmune disorders. And then the digestive manifestation of those, the whole family of digestive disorders, which if that goes on long enough, untreated, unaddressed, can morph and evolve and change into UC, ulcerative colitis, or Crohn's. And these are, again, these are much easier to catch or to spot up front before that change happens in the immune system. In the dominant school of medicine, they say that it's unmasked, and that they sort of imply that it was there all along, and no matter what you do, that it would have happened anyway. So, uh, the truth is, when we don't know if that's true, but what we also know is true, what we do know is true, that's not all the way true. That again, the biology is not a ABC 1, 2, 3 cure and destined fast tracked if there is a genetic history or stronger family history of autoimmune issue, or really any condition, a metabolic issue, cholesterol, diabetes, anything in the family, and even these autoimmune disorders, endocrine disorders. These are not on a fast track genetically predestined to unfold. Just because grandfather, grandmother, or father or mother had some issue does not mean that you, as the offspring, are destined to, or predestined to, have that same fate, that same destiny. That's the old school ABC 1, 2, 3 biology. And again, what we now know is that epigenetically, that is where the information is coming. And this is what I'm talking about. When you want to get at the heart of, again, personalized medicine is the domain of genetically programming and genetically selecting and optimizing the genes that you want to express that are going to create optimal health in your body and in your system. What's going to determine that is the epigenetic environment that the cell is bathed in. And what is going to determine the epigenetic environment are the determinants of health: the food, the air, the water. And I put a couple more things in there, but those are the big, the top three: the food, the air, the water. And this is how you can actually change your genetic destiny. You can create your optimal health, and you can selectively, consciously choose to biohack your way to optimal health by optimizing your genetics, not by using some designer genetic snipping where we're going to go to Singapore and have them splice and dice our genes and then pop them back in so we can have big muscles, or whatever your story is. Okay, that is a fairy tale, at least at this point where the science is developed. And when artificial intelligence and all of these things really take hold, okay, that might be possible, but then now we already are teeter-tottering on the on that transhumanist ledge. And I think there's a lot that's unknown there, but we're going to see this in our generation. Neuralink's here, the implants are here, the computer chips are here, where there will be this hybridization between technology and biology. It's not, is it going to happen, or if it's going to happen. It's happening, and it's going to continue to happen. I am a fan of maintaining the natural native biology, at least at this point in the game, until such time that these technologies and these methods are a little bit better understood and we can harmonize these with the native biology. I think there's too many unknown factors, and I would promote the natural biology and the native biology as really the more advanced science at this point. And this is how I call personalized medicine, is by taking the self-responsibility and educating yourself on how we can optimize the genetics to express and open up in the most natural way where it's going to create health. And again, there are multiple components to this, and I think thinking and looking ahead and seeing who you want to be 10 years, 5 years from now, 10 years from now in regards to your health, and then taking the actions and start liking the stuff that's going to create that, so we can reinvent ourselves and reincarnate ourselves along the way. And I like this because the reincarnation means that we can drop our mind and our mental setup, but we can keep the same body. So on the outside, it looks the same, but internally, our operating system updates and upgrades. That's the reincarnation I'm talking about. That's the software update that I'm talking about. And this is how we'll actually do it. And this is just the tip of the iceberg here. So this again opens up a whole nother realm of possibilities in the health. And what do we mean by health? We mean health as the natural state of being, health as that it's caused by, it's a side effect and an after effect and really a direct effect of your interaction with your environment, your interaction between you and your biology and the environment. And this is internal and external, and all of this mingles together and spirals together to help create the healthy state. And if there is some symptom of dis-ease or imbalance, that is our clue that is pointing towards some imbalance, some derangement of the vital force inside the system. And that's where we would go to correct that, and then observe the symptoms and seek to cure, not suppress. And we do this by identifying the obstacles to cure and removing the obstacles to cure. And we do this by upgrading and up leveling the way that we bring the determinants of health into our world. So, I mean, this is super important because, by the way, this stuff that we're talking about, they've done some interesting studies on this, and they see, for example, that environmental toxins in a female, a female that is pregnant, and if uh that baby is a female itself, those eggs in there, so now we're talking 1, 2, 3 generations known of, can be influenced by some of um, these environmental disruptors, these determinants of health. So you're talking about potentially altering the expression genetically that we know of, that we can demonstrate at this point, where the science is 3 generations ahead. So there's transgenerational effects, and this makes me kind of think back to many of the native traditions, the Native American traditions, the traditions from the south of India, the Siddha traditions, and I'm sure many other traditions. They talk about our actions that we take having those ripple effects 7 generations. And if you can wrap your mind around this, it's 7 generations in the past and the future. That's maybe a pod for another day. But the point is, these environmental chemicals and these environmental neuroendocrine disruptors have transgenerational, across the generations effect. And this is a big, big, big deal, because think about where that's going to put us. 1, 2, 3 steps down, 3 generations later, and we're still going to be paying for the things that we're doing in the environment today. And by the way, this is the real climate change issue. It's not so much about carbon and CO2. It's about protecting the environment and caring for the environment, and being aware and sensitive to how chemicals we put into the environment are affecting ecosystems, across ecosystems that are mingling with other ecosystems, and it's a global network that gets affected. We do not exist in a vacuum. We exist in a highly interconnected world, in a world of truly oneness, where we all are connected, and that information is propagated through the whole network. And it's going to take generations for this to play out. And we've seen another case of this year, with the way that with this alteration in the natural environment, where we see now that um, the virus, different viruses are combining, things like RSV and the other virus that was a big deal 2 years ago, and and things like the seasonal influenza. These viruses are merging and mingling and creating what they're calling super viruses. Now, I think eventually the ecosystem will eventually digest these and incorporate these, and the immune system will update itself and learn how to develop immunity to these. But this is new and novel in the virome, in the bacteriome, in the genome. And again, What's the big deal? Well, we need, with the changes and all the newness in the synthetic world, that means that we need to make sure that our natural God-given immunity is able to perform even better and recognize self from non-self and be able to tag and eliminate and neutralize or incorporate and update the antibody systems and the learned immunity. The immune system has to be working optimally, and in order to do that, we got to make sure that the determinants of health are dialed in. So this is the big deal. Um, Again, this is just the tip of the iceberg, but we've got to be aware about this. And naturopathic medicine is not just about, this is what's different with naturopathic modalities and in this new paradigm that we're talking about. It's not so much about the diagnosis, it's about really the long game and how do we restore health? How do we restore health? And then how do we get one into the states of optimization where they can really optimize the biology and optimize the genetics so that real health can really be created. Um, this is what we're talking about. And this happens on all levels. Remember, we have the physical body, we have a mental emotional bodies, we have breath bodies, we have intellectual bodies, spiritual bodies. So all of this has to be happening in this category of determinants of health. Certainly the food is there, that's number one. And of the physical causes of disease, this is the most important, the most significant is the food to address, because the diet and the digestion, this is happening every single day, multiple times a day. And if you don't have this dialed in, this will bioaccumulate on you. And over time, the digestion will become disordered. There will be some toxemia, there will be inflammation, and there will be illness. Now, what's that manifest like? Depends on your determinants of health, your genetics, your nutrition, your nutrient status, your stress level, behavioral, social, cultural, karmic, all these influences. That's going to be a player. But the food, the digestion has to be optimized, and the diet has to be optimized before anything else can be done, before any remedies come on board, before any medicines come on board, before anything any treatments really initiate. The diet has to be dialed in, and if there's not proper therapeutic diet, nothing is going to work, and you're not going to get a permanent restoration. You're going to get hit and miss, on and off results, because the digestion and the therapeutic nutrition is the essential. The food is the medicine. You're not what you eat, you are what you absorb, assimilate, and you got to be eliminating also. But you are what you absorb and you assimilate. So the nutrient content, if you're ingesting herbicides and pesticides and neuroendocrine disruptors and things like that, guess what? That stuff's going to absorb and assimilate, and it's going to derange the system. So we have to get the nutrition and the therapeutic diet. We have to work on this. We have to address this. We have to make sure that this is something that is number one on our list. And then number two on our list, on our determinants of health, is the water. We got to be drinking clean water. And the short version of the long story is the municipal tap water is completely toxic. We have to filter, we have to mineralize, and we have to energize our drinking water. The filtered municipal water is toxic. It's loaded with chlorine and bleach and fluoride and many, many, many other coliform bacterias and many, 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 many other things. You can look up your municipal water supply. Usually there's annual quality reports for wherever your area is. And you can see this stuff. You can look this stuff up and see what is in your water. And then one thing that we can do also is we can send that water off for third-party independent testing also and get an analysis on that. But this is going to be one of those things. It's a little bit different things that you look out for in the water, or you're really really watching for, depending on geography. If you are if you are around a lot of waterways and there is a lot of yard work, or many people are getting yard work done, and there's a lot of pesticide runoff, this is something to be cognizant of. If you're, for example, maybe out in the Southwest, there's a lot of Superfund sites, and these are really toxic sites that then they'll go and build neighborhoods on top of, and put cheap real estate on top of, and you think you're getting a great deal. It's like, okay, yeah, that's a great deal, but you're built on a Superfund site, which is emitting all kinds of, possibly even radio contamination. That's another level of the environmental medicine that is certainly another conversation for another pod, is radio contamination. This is something that is a big, 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 big deal. But these are the kind of things that are in the water. This is so, we can find a spring water, depending on where you are in the world. You may live somewhere like Costa Rica where you're able, possibly, and not even there, there are certain parts of the world you might be able to have, tap, artesian, deep, well water run right into your house. And if you can, you should say 1,000 prayers, because that's such a tremendous blessing. But not everybody has that opportunity. So what we got to do is create our own spring water. And that means filtering and mineralizing and energizing the water. That means filtering. And I recommend either an RO or distillation. The reverse osmosis is usually a little more accessible. You can get a whole home system to do that. That may or may not be desirable or practical for everyone, but certainly something that is practical is the RO units you can put under the sink. Yes, is there some water waste? And that may be an issue, again, depending on geographically where you are. So this is one of those issues where the answer might be different depending on where you live geographically. So we're just kind of talking about the higher level things to be cognizant of. And the story with the water is we really want to create natural spring water, which is highly mineralized, naturally alkalinized water that is going to nourish and bring some minerals into our body. And the way that we do that is we filter it, and then we add minerals back into it. And I teach my people how to do this, how to essentially make spring water. There's a recipe that we can do that with, and we want to get that mineralization up to about 230 parts per million. Then we can just test that with a simple TDS meter. And then we can energize that based on Dr. Masaru Emoto's work and many others who have brought work like this into the forefront. I think his messages from water, which that research has been out for 20 plus years now, but I think some people still do not know about that. You can look that up. Dr. Emoto left his body a few years ago, and he left a tremendous body of research showing that water has a memory and an intelligence, and it responds to our thoughts and our emotions. And the highest frequencies that actually alter the bond angles of the water are love and gratitude. So saying that prayer and projecting that intention onto our drinking water, it's alive and it's listening to you and it's responding to you. And guess what? We're made of mostly water, circa 70% water. That's what we're ingesting. So we want those minerals. We got our good food. We got our good water. The third determinant of health is the air. And the air, all these conversations, all the same conversation about environmental medicine kind of goes across these three um, primary determinants of food, water, air, and the environmental part is kind of like bundled or baked into that. Sort of obvious why. They're all of the environment. So the air quality is and these are the things that we're doing every day. We eat every single day, multiple times a day. We digest without having to cognize or think about it. We rely on that strategic intelligence in the biology that just knows how to break down proteins, carbs, and fats and put that to work and put those macros to work and create energy so we can live our life. We don't think about how when we drink water, It's distributing those minerals and dispersing those minerals and hydrating the system, and all that just happens, and we're doing it all day every day. And then the third determinant here is the air quality. And did you guys know that the indoor air quality is 4 times worse than the outdoor air quality? And the outdoor air quality, again, depending on geographically where you are, is, if you are fortunate to live at a higher altitude away from any industry and you're able to get some fresh air up high, fantastic. That's where you want to be. But if you're down in the valley and there's a mega city where that's where all of that smog and all of those environmental pollutants are going to settle down into that breathing area, that becomes a problem. Again, over time, this is going to bioaccumulate. The biology will adjust itself, and it can manage, some level of that challenge from the environment. And I am a fan of micro challenges to the system bring about a robustness, yes, but a toxicity burdens down. Certainly, I'm looking for the magic of the minimum. Believe me, I'm a homeopath at heart. I've seen it a gajillion times. I know also, I've seen the research. I know this is the real future of medicine as far as like quantum understanding in how medicines are responding and the primary and secondary laws of effect. And there is definitely this happening with medicines, but the food, the air, the water, we can't handle these high doses of these environmental toxins and these toxicants into the system. They have to be identified and reduced or eliminated ideally. And that's what we're trying to do when we're addressing the air quality. So getting some kind of air filtration on the indoor living spaces that are on average statistically 4 times as toxic as the outdoor breathing spaces, which are laden with all kinds of again, synthetic compounds that are put into the environment. It's a global issue. Geographically, everywhere is going to have different sets of challenges. I live where they launch rockets off a lot, and there's probably a whole lot of perchlorate that's coming down, and that's just part of the world we live in. So again, if you go too far down the environmental medicine rabbit hole, you will end up scared to eat, scared to drink, scared to breathe. Okay, that's no way to live either. We cannot live in a bubble. But the part of this is to, number one, the information is empowering. So we know what to do and how to actually take action so that we can go out into the world and live our life. So again, we need to take mind and take special attention to the food, the air, the water, because these determinants of health, this is what creates the terrain from which either health and healing arises or which illness is going to flourish. And if you understand this and how this is working and how the determinants of health are working, then you can create your health and you can start to hack your way out of these modern medical dilemmas and these modern uh, challenges that we have, and you can maintain and optimize the biology. But you got to know what we're talking about first. You got to know the main things to go for: the food, the air, the water. And that might seem obvious to some people, or to, but I heard the other day in some conversations that this was not on the top priority, and this was other medical practitioners and things like this, and trying to go, this is where you'll get, if you don't address the determinants of health, you will find yourself with those hit or miss on and off results. And I'm interested in getting results for my people and for long term, the long game. That's what we really want to be doing. So determinants of health: food, air, water, breathing, movement, all these foundational basics. This is what we do to biohack our way and optimize our genetics so that we can have the peak expression of health in our lives, so that we can be happier, be healthier, be better at our craft, be better at what we're doing, be be really better and up leveling our game as human beings, because that's the real game and that's the real specialty. This determinants of health is key to getting there. So that's where we're at, guys. How's it going, everybody, with your determinants of health? Do a scan through, check this out. That's a wrap for today's episode. We're going to pause it here. You guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Human Handbook Podcast. My name is Dr. Adam Tice. You guys have a great day. Thank you so much for being here. And be sure to tune in next week, where we're going to be talking more about everything you need to know, but nobody's telling you about how to optimize your health, cultivate happiness, and biohack your way to peak performance. Adios for now, guys.